And we're on. Leo
All right.
Savage. Thanks for joining Fitness and Consciousness.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. This is cool. Looking forward to our discussion.
Yeah, me too. I've known about you for a while, and um, you're doing a lot with the mace. That seems to be your main uh, exercise tool, and you're doing a lot of different flow with it. And like you're creating your own method and style. So can you tell us what got you into the mace originally, and then what was the point where you decided I can actually do a lot more stuff with this than what people are doing right now?
Okay. So there's actually two neat stories about me getting into the steel mace. So I was in strength and conditioning in a UFC gym, and they were really big into sports style kettlebells. And I just really wasn't too into it. I just, for me, it wasn't like something that really sung to me. It wasn't something that I was passionate about. So I was always looking for different ways to train. Matter of fact, I'm just an unconventional person. So, I would always just try and make workouts out of odd things. In that path, I ran into a video of Brock Lesnar. You know him. He's the WWF wrestler,
Mm-hmm.
and he was actually segueing into mixed martial arts. He had a fight coming up, and I saw Brock Lesnar like hitting a monster truck tire with a sledgehammer, but he was doing it with one hand, which I had never seen before, and I just thought like, man, that guy's incredibly strong. So it gave me the idea of like operating a sledgehammer with one hand. I went to the gym, I goofed around with a sledgehammer and got into this like weird area where I was interpreting like martial arts moves, like things that I had done with like a quarter staff or a sword, but with a sledgehammer. And I just thought it was super impressive. It was a lot of fun, and it just like energetically charged me to a point where I was like changing my habits. So I just really took notice that there was something there. All right, second story. I'm trying to fall asleep. It's midnight. I put the Joe Rogan podcast on YouTube. This is back in the day on the Joe Rogan podcast. Back in the day on YouTube, he used to do his own ads before he started his live. So he's like, "Hey man, you got to get the Alpha Brain. You got to get the Primal Bells. Hey, we sell this Steel Mace." And I was trying to go to sleep. I hear Steel Mace. I think, well, hey, the hammer is Steel Mace. What's the deal? And so I, tap some buttons on the keyboard. Next thing you know, I'm staring at the world's most ugly piece of fitness equipment, the jet black Steel Mace. And I just remember thinking like, that's it? Like it is not a sexy piece of equipment. And especially the pictures they were using, I was very uninspired, unimpressed. But what I did have is I had a company that made a tool who was into fitness. So I started researching on it and what do they do, and who are they, and what's their strength and conditioning stuff. And I found Marcus Aubrey's Steel Mace Warrior Maker workout. And I remember saying I would never do any of that stuff that he was doing with his Steel Mace. Regardless, I went to the gym and tried all that stuff. And I found it challenging, extremely challenging. That same gym I worked at, here's the finish of the story. They were having a kettlebell certification. Ken Blackburn was coming to town. He was going to teach us kettlebell certification. And like I said, I just wasn't passionate about it. I ended up skipping on the certification. And but I talked to Ken, and this was the first person I'd ever talked to. I remember I said, "Hey Ken, have you ever heard of the Steel Mace?"
Hmm.
And Ken's like, "Yeah, man, I swing one every day. It's very therapeutic for the shoulders. I'll send you some." And I said, "Oh man, you didn't have to do that." And he was like, "No, I'm gonna do it." He sends me a couple Steel Mace, not directly to me, but at the gym I worked at, and I got my hands on the Steel Mace for the very first time. And so that's how I found out about the Steel Mace. And then along that same time, when did I figure that I would be spending a lot of quality time with this piece of equipment? Was the very first day I picked up a mace. Now I'd been working out with a sledgehammer, trying to do martial arts and movement and like create patterns and kind of relive my childhood through self-expression and swinging swords and pretending I was a Power Ranger or a Ninja Turtle or whatever. I pick up the Steel Mace, and the first thing I notice is that the grip is like seamless. Like it's not clumsy like a sledgehammer. It doesn't have a wood grip, rubber handle, you know. And I remember thinking, I'm gonna fuck with this thing for like 15 minutes. I'm gonna mess with the Steel Mace, and I'm gonna go do the bench and the squats and the curls and the abs. And I don't know what the fuck happened, but hours go by. I'm talking 2 hours, and my hands are shaking. And this is kind of why I stopped. My central nervous system was just on fire. I had a ton of energy, but my body was fatigued. And I just remember thinking, I just had so much fun. I was challenged mentally. I was challenged physically. The tool presented itself as a puzzle. Like, can you figure out what to do with me? And I enjoy solving those riddles, you know, as a trainer or a coach. And that was the big day. That was the game changer. From then on, I have worked with the mace damn near every day since. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I know what you mean by you're just like looking at this thing and it's just kind of like a metal stick with a little knob on the end, and what can you do with that? And a lot of people are just like doing like all the simple stuff with it, which is good for the shoulders, you know, like the tendon tooth stuff. And but then you're just like dancing around with it and flowing with it in your method that you have. You call it Steel Mace Flow, right? That's your own trademarked
Correct.
thing. Yeah.
Yes. The Steel Mace Flow, now that was like a combination of the personal work I'd done with the mace, that, you know, what I like to call my personal practice. And in my personal practice, which was me goofing around with this sledgehammer or this mace and trying to make sense of it, that was my personal practice. And after about a year of me goofing around, you know, I found out that Yanit Academy offered a certification in the Steel Mace. And it just blew my mind that there was a strength and conditioning program on this piece of equipment that I was so down for. Not only that, but like, talk about the stars aligning, the motherfucking work, the certification was coming to my hometown. And at the time, I was dirt poor. So the fact that it was in my hometown really made it something that, you know, could actually happen. So, you know, I take the certification. And brother, I dove deep in the Kool-Aid. I mean, I drank gallons of it. The system worked. It was powerful. My body got tuned up. I mean, the system worked, which is just, I mean, it was just fantastic. So I had this system that Anna used, and I had this background of what I did with the mace, and they just kind of met in a way that they flowed together. You know, I had these system of moves and these series of sequences that I would repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And it just over time became a form of like self-expression and almost like theatrics and dance and, you know, powerful movements. And not only was I like sculpting my body, but at the same time, I just started to notice this practice I was participating in. It just started to feed me mentally more than anything. I started finding out new things about myself, you know, being able to deal with very, you know, I had some problems of the heart. I went through a breakup, and, you know, having that tool, this mace, not only something that I could get physical with, but really express myself in movement. It was a therapeutic tool as well. And really, you know, just fell in love with it and really enjoyed telling people about my story and teaching them the process that I went through, you know, learning first, developing a personal relationship with your mace and seeing what natural movements you have, and then saying, okay, well, you have these natural movements. Let's empower those natural movements, but instead of them just being movement, let's give them some structure and some theory So then we get to add like the certification that I learned, the on-it principles. I could really apply those structures to this body of work that you've already created. And I think when you put those two things together, you really get to work on something that you love, your natural movement, and you get to do so with integrity, this system over here. Now, for me, when you say like flow, I just think like fluid transition. It's like a basic definition. The more moves you have in the Steel Mace continuum, the more access you have to movement. I always say all the moves connect. And one of the reasons I think all the moves connect is somewhere in between the On It Academy system and my personal practice lives this body of work that I've created to help me reach my flow state, bringing in a ton of my past life experience, and like no matter what it was, theater, dance. When I say theater and dance, I danced in high school and I took drama in high school. Like it didn't go past that. Sometimes I'm a drama queen, so there's a but adding all those different things together, I said, man, hey, I really have something special here. And I used to think like this is a really unique thing, like getting into this flow state of mind and working out. Like this is a thing that maybe you could do, but it's going to be really hard to teach people this feeling that you get. It's just, it probably wouldn't be something that you could do. So as I was teaching people about the Steel Mace, I really stayed over here towards this like strength conditioning proven area. But what I started to notice is no matter how secure this box was, I would put my students in, my students wanted out of the box.
Yes.
And they wanted to move freely. And that was with every student. Not one person said, I wanted to keep doing the same movement over and over and over. It was more, what's next, Leo? What's next, coach? What can we learn next? And it was just a beautiful thing where we got away from like the numbers of strength training. How much do you bench? How much do you squat? How much weight did you lose? And we got into this area of learning skills. You know, when my students come into class or into a seminar, they want skill acquisition rather than how do I buff up my biceps and pecs? And I'm no longer working out for my ego, but I'm working out for a feeling. And that's the world I really like to live in. And it's just important to understand that I like people to have their personal practice, and I like to empower that. Granted, we all have like rules we play by to keep people safe in this particular mace practice, but embracing that we are all different, we all have unique movements, and empowering that is one of the reasons I teach the Steel Mace, is to empower you, for instance, Ryan, to be the best Ryan you can be, because we can work out every day, 12 hours a day for 12 years, and you'll never be me, I'll never be you. So let's just cut the bullshit. Let's acknowledge there's a structured way to do things, there's your personal way to do things, and then there's this harmony in the middle. And if we can empower people to be in this harmony, you'll probably hang on to it a little bit longer because we enjoy this area. Not that both areas aren't just as not just as important. You know, this creative side feeds the strict like rule side, and the strict rules side helps get structure to the creative side.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that philosophy. It's very much like what I do. So I'm certified by Strong First as a kettlebell instructor, which is here's exactly how you do this. Your hand goes like this. You squat like this. Yeah, there might be differences between my squat and your squat, but the principles are the same. And your cleans are like this, and everything is just exactly this way. And it's this high standard. You have to do 100 snatches within 5 minutes. 99 is failing, period. There's no, well, you're a nice guy, we'll give it to you. But then so I have that, and I plan on sticking with them. But I call my own style freestyle.
Okay.
And I think by definition, I don't think I could actually trademark it, because freestyle is like a description. So I kind of chose that on purpose. So when I'm teaching people, I teach kids and adults. And so I'm trying to, like, I'll start off my classes like with animal flows with the kids. And so like, here's how you do this. But then I want them to make up their own transition, and they do. So it's like,
Every time. Yeah.
how is this 9-year-old coming up with cool stuff by himself? It's like we just have this in us, and all sometimes just like crank up the music and let them flow with the kettlebell and do whatever they want. And one of my, he's 9, just turned 10, just turned 10. He did something that I haven't seen before, or like I taught him like the snatch, and I taught him like the figure 8, like between the legs.
Yeah.
And he was kind of combining that. So I just cranked up the radio and I'm just observing. And he was like doing the snatch, and at the top of the snatch, he was going back around, and then between the back of his legs and then around to like, and he called it like the spider. And I was like, that looks cool. So he's
awesome.
And so I'm with you so much on, here's this strict technique that we can't just go do whatever you want and expect that to work out fine. But if you have these principles, like you're saying these, and then do whatever you want. Because I'm not trying to make them like me. I'm trying to have them be like their own self, that self-expression that you talked about. You mentioned like problems of the heart, and for a second there, I thought you meant heart problems as in like some kind of medical issue. And when I was reading up through your Instagram post, I saw something about like you mentioned depression, and how the through these flows and the mace, that it was able to get you out of that. And so I'm not quite sure how to word my question. I have it in my mind, but so I think I have this thing like where like guys can like a lot of like the toughest dudes that I know, the baddest jujitsu dudes, the baddest martial artists, are like the nicest guys. They're like the softest guys, and they're just really nice. They're smiling, and they could fuck you up easily with one arm, but they're super nice, and they're not willing to, or they're willing to talk about their feelings. They're willing to talk about what's actually going on with them. They don't have to pretend to be tough. They can already beat up almost everybody. And so that stuck out to me, like that you mentioning the depression, the mace helping you get out of it through these flow states, and then you just mentioned the heart thing. So can you just kind of like, I don't have an exact question, but can you just kind of like put that together? Like how?
Yeah, let me dive into it a little bit. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Just as hard as it is to ask or form into a question, it might be as hard to articulate, but great fucking question. I really don't get asked this that much, so let's see what happens. Well, yeah, I'll just tell you the story. I was in a relationship for 8 years, and the relationship ended, and it was tough. The biggest part of that relationship that sucked, I was not married. I was fathering my ex's daughter. And in the breakup, since we're not married, I don't get any visitation rights. So not only did I lose, my ex, I lost the daughter as well. So, it was horrible. And, I would go, there's this thing that people do. It's called self-harm. And we all, I think we all self-harm. Some people cut themselves. For me, like for instance, I've gotten tattoos, and as a form of self-harm. Some people get into drinking, some people get into drugs. There's a whole gamut of things people do when they feel a certain way. And I think the reason why we try to hurt ourselves is we can control that pain, as opposed to like an emotional pain might be a little harder to control. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. So I would go to the gym, just feeling the energy from, what had happened. And I would pick up my mace and start to swing it. And with the goals a lot of the times in these exercises were to get to a place where I couldn't do the workouts anymore, where how much pain could I bear before I broke? And so for me, I got to choose what I was going to punish myself with, so to speak. Going through those like dark times brought me a lot of light, as I was going through that process, I record all of my work because I am my own coach. I have to see what I'm doing. I have to relive it. I have to videotape this new transition so I can watch it over and over and over. So as I'm going through this heartache, I'm recording my work, and no matter how bad I felt, the work that I was putting out was just magical. It's beautiful. And so even though I had this like really negative thing going on, I had this counterbalance. I had like a yin to the yang. I had this tool that I was going into the gym to destroy my legs and destroy my arms and put myself through this quantifiable pain so I could take some type of control out of my life. But that's not what happened. I didn't find any pain. I just found a lot of love, and found out a lot about myself in those moments. One thing I did in this journey was I just gave into, when I was in the moment, when I was swinging Steel Mace and I had my music up and the right song came on and I was hitting fatigue, you know, I felt the happiest as I could possibly be. And I never felt pain. I just felt like I was loved and like I was put here to do this thing. And it really helped me get through some of my darkest times. You know, we have this like labor of love. You go work in your backyard on something that's going to like your porch or your deck, or you go grow a garden. Like, you enjoy that work. And then after you do the work, you feel good. And so while my object was to go to the gym and, like I said, cause some type of pain, instead my Steel Mace, this inanimate object, became my dance partner. And accepting that was the journey, I gave in 100%. When I picked up my mace, whatever I was going to go through, I dove as deep as I could. I mean, if I wanted to fucking cry, I'd cry. You know, if I wanted to yell at the top of my lungs, I'd do it. I did it just a few days ago in the middle of Bryant Park in New York City. But I learned to express myself, and in learning how to express myself, that depression that I had inside, it wasn't inside anymore. I got to act it out. I got to deal with it. So for me, that movement was a medicine for that depression. I hope that helps that question.
Yeah, that makes that makes perfect sense. Just we store these traumas of various sorts, whether it's emotional trauma or literally physical trauma, like I hurt my shoulder playing football or something like that. But then there's also, like you said, like the problems of the heart and of the, maybe like I have a lot of tension at work and I'm just stress from work. And then we can, like, through this self-expression where like it won't work if you're just doing, or maybe it gives you the keys if you're just doing like, here's the on it program, we do this and then this and then this, just this way. But with what you're doing, it's like opening up the rest of the world for it, like building the foundation for that self-expression so people can put things together, and then it opens things up that are like maybe hard to define. Maybe that's why it's kind of hard to put it in an exact question or an exact answer. We can just kind of allude to it and kind of point to it, because like these different moves can like loosen up these different parts of the body or the mind where you're actually healing yourself in all these ways, kind of like yoga class. Like, well, that's good for stretching, but something happens. Like after you do it for a while, you kind of like become that way. So you can see a girl at the grocery store and you can think, I bet she does yoga. She doesn't have to have yoga pants on, but she'll kind of like she'll just have that feel to her, and you can feel it at a distance. Something else I was looking at was like occasionally you post about like smoking weed and your practice. So do you find that helps you get into these flow states? Do you do
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, let's talk. Yeah, I love talking about the weed. First of all, let me say this before I say any of the benefits. First and foremost, I smoke weed because I like to smoke weed. It just happens to be some awesome benefits of smoking weed. So yeah, I often smoke. I am a high functioning pothead. I accept the term. I smoke all the time. There's probably I wake up and smoke. I work out and smoke. I smoke a lot. Does the weed help me find my flow? It definitely does. Here's why. Just to put into perspective real quick. If you've ever smoked, music sounds real good. Music sounds good. Matter of fact, turn that shit up. I want to feel the bass. It makes me feel good. I can feel the vibrations. I dig it. My workouts are done to music. I work out to music. Here's what I like about music. Whenever I put on a song, I commit. I say, I'm going to work out from the beginning of the song till the end of this song. I don't know how many reps I'm going to get in. I don't know how long the song is. Hopefully it's not a 10-minute techno song, but I'm going to work out through the whole thing. And so really moving and expressing myself and having the sound and something that amplifies it is something that helps me get into my flow zone. I actually prefer, if I'm gonna flow, if I have time, like if I don't have anything to do, I like to smoke a bowl, take an edible, do my movement practice, which is like just kind of loosening up, trying to figure out if I have like any injuries or anything I need to be cautious of. And then I get into like maybe an hour long workout. And once that hour long workout's about over, that's when the edible kicks in. And that's when I give it another round and all the magic happens. Yeah, I don't advocate people swing mace and smoke, but I do advocate you being yourself. So if you're into that, I'm into you being you.
Yeah, it's a funny thing for me. I used to smoke, and then I quit just over 6 years ago. Quit drinking, smoking weed, and everything. And I had like this really weird thing happen. I think I've talked about it like different parts of it on my own show and or on my other podcast, but uh, like I think I met like an angel or a bodhisattva or something like that, and she just like turned this dial in my mind, and it was this really strange experience. I knew her for a while, and then the day that I decided to quit smoking and drinking was the last day I ever saw her. Never heard from her again. And
Ah,
that was this whole weird thing. It was I really don't think she was a human, or it was super strange. But so for me, it was like I would before that I'd like smoke and work out, and I'd go out in the backyard with some buddies, and we might we'd have a smoke, maybe drink a beer, and then go out and start throwing some kettlebells around and bring the barbell outside and just kind of do stuff for a few hours, throwing stuff, uh, and I definitely believe that you can get into these, like it can help these flow states, and a lot of jujitsu guys, high level jujitsu
yeah,
guys, are into smoking before, and then, but then like some other people like me now, it's like now that's not my thing now, and who knows what the future will be, but it was just kind of like I went from pretty into it to just over it, and so is like, have you been into it for a long time, or
yeah. So when I used to fight in mixed martial arts, and when I competed in mixed martial arts, I was a super clean dude as far as like I didn't have any bad habits. Um, I would have a beer or two after a fight, and then that was like kind of my limit. Like that was pretty much all I could handle. And yeah, so when I got out of martial arts, I hurt my neck and had this like pretty gnarly thing happen. I had a cervical strain. You know, I had this weird like impingement, this weird nerve thing going on in the left side of my body to where my left arm just didn't. I couldn't lift 5 pounds up with my left arm. It was the weirdest thing. Had this accident at work. Plus, I was like overtraining and like cutting stupid weight for these mixed martial arts fights. Anyways, I got hurt. They sent me to the doctor and they said, "Hey, you're fine, buddy. Here's some pills." Okay, got the pills. I come from a long line of addicts. Took the pills, not thinking about the consequences. Just thought I didn't want to be in pain after 3 weeks of taking hydrocodones. I just was like, I don't think I'm in pain. I just don't think I can lift something up. So I'm not going to take the pills. I'm just going to see what I feel like. And I felt fine, except I was angry, irritable, and fiending for a pill. So, I was just like, hey, no fucking pills. Let's get the pills out of here. And I started smoking, and that's that. Been smoking ever since.
Yeah, it does seem to really help a lot of people. I guess there's like some people it's a medicine, some people it's a poison.
It's how you use it, man. It's how you use it. Like, if your deal is like you can't eat. I had a client, and let's tell the story. I had a client, and I'm not going to say her name or anything like that, but she couldn't sleep, she couldn't eat, she had a bad attitude, she had inflammation all over her body. And I just said, hey, we had tried we tried a bunch of different things to help her out. Nothing really helped out. And I just said, fuck it, Hail Mary. I was at the point where I was like questioning how much time and effort and energy I wanted to trade with her. And so I just said, hey, listen, I wish you'd smoke a joint. You would eat, you'd probably be a little happier, you'd probably get some rest. And she says, my daughter, my son-in-law, but all these people, and now my coach are telling me to smoke a joint. And I said, look, hey, I'm not telling you to smoke a joint. Should probably the wrong way to go about it, but you should look into CBD, and there's some awesome things out there that you can get into that will help you. So she goes and goes through the process, and I'll be damned if she didn't start showing up to workouts on time with a smile on her face. Her hands were like half a size smaller than they normally are. So it was like an extremely effective thing for her. Medicine, poison. You can definitely misuse marijuana. You can take too many edibles before a fight, and it can scare the shit out of you. Of course, it slows you down, your reaction time. So, maybe operating heavy machinery is probably not a bad idea. So I just think it's all quantifiable. Like, you can make sense of it no matter what. Like, here's an argument for you. Like, I've heard this before. Not all movement is good movement. And to that I say, you're fucking wrong. You tell that to a guy who's paralyzed from the waist down, that any movement, not all movement's good movement. That guy just wants to shake his pinky toe. Like, anything for that guy is success. So it's all in how you present stuff. So I think if you present stuff with an open mind and the willingness to know that things are going to change, like, we base our workout modalities on the scientific method. Like, this is scientifically proven to work. Yes, by a scientist who reserves the right to be wrong in 2 weeks because information changes. So I think it's important to keep the glass half empty so you can continue to fill it up and continue to drink out of it. And when science proves itself wrong, you won't be the person who was wrong and said there was only one way to do it. Yeah. End of rant.
Yeah. So you're when I was going through your social media, the vast majority of it is Mace stuff, and then I see the kettlebells, and I saw that you had several certifications. So when you're with clients or your other workouts, what other tools are you using? What are your favorite ways to put workouts together? And what does besides the Mace, what does your practice look like?
Yeah. So I love telling people I work out with the Mace 95% of the time. I use a 10 and a 15 pound Mace. And I basically just dance around and practice fun movements and try and create new transitions and moves for my workouts. But the question was, what do I do outside? What do I do in that 5 to 10% window? I like doing body weight stuff. I like animal flow. It's a neat thing I'm getting into. It's like a form of calisthenics, push-ups, squats, moving around on the ground that has a flow aspect to it. I like kettlebells. I like doing, but if I'm going to like play with the kettlebell or a barbell or a steel club or a battle rope or a medicine ball or that door behind you, whatever I'm going to work out with, I just want to try and figure out neat shit to do with it. I want to figure out neat transitions. And like, for instance, I was doing a sit through into a tripod extension. You're like basically on your back with one hand on the floor and the other hand like aiming towards the sky. And I was like, I would love to do that with a medicine ball, an Indian club, a barbell, a tire, a mace, whatever. And so my typical workouts are just trying to find something neat to do with movement. I really don't write a lot of workouts. I used to write a hell of a lot of workouts based on I had clients and we were still focusing on this box over here of like mindfulness and instead of like the skill acquisition area that I like teach now. But I can write a pretty shitty workout. I wrote a mace workout the other day. I know we're not talking mace, but it was pretty horrible. It was called Fuck Your Legs. It's on my Instagram if you want to give it a try. It was like a neat workout because it was like workout with 10 pounds, try and get through 3 rounds. And it seems totally doable, but it's tough. I'm really fond of the barbell. I would say is probably my second favorite tool to use other than the mace or body weight. I don't use it like a conventional barbell. I don't like, for instance, do squats and bench press or deadlifts. I'll do a lot of landmine work. What's kind of neat about the barbell is, say you're dead center, right? And you take one step to the left, you would have a barbell that acts a lot like a steel mace, like something that's asymmetrically loaded. So you can make a barbell, which is like this unit that is equal on both sides. You can make it extremely difficult by stepping to the left or to the right. And I love this philosophy because life's never like incredibly fair. It's never really presented to you like, here's all the things that are going to happen. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. There's usually something that happens in those steps while you're trying to accomplish, get from point A to point B that you have to maneuver around or adapt to. One thing I really like about the style of training, the unconventional barbell training that we use, that I've used, I got certified at the Honor Academy in Unconventional Barbell by Juan Lejan, John Wolf. It's just neat to take something and make it even harder than it could possibly be or than it normally is and make a functional training out of it. I've never like picked up something and had an equal portion in the left hand and right hand. There's always like some type of bias. Me recovering from this neck injury, I'm almost certain I use the right side of my body than the left side of my body, even in like a deadlift, for instance, a traditional lift or bench press. The nice thing about working with something that's asymmetrical or loaded off center is it tends to point out like the weak areas in your body. If you move 5 pounds of force over to the right side of your body and you're having a lot of trouble, then that probably means, the left side of your body's doing a lot of work. However, if you put that same weight on the left side of your body and you're right and you do just fine, well, it's a big key to tell you how dominant you are on one side of your body versus the other.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and I've done a lot of kind of weird stuff with barbells, and then I noticed the unconventional barbell certification, and I don't think I had heard of it before through the on it. So like, what kind of techniques are you doing besides? So you're doing like off-center deadlifts, and you're doing
off-centered presses, one-handed cleans, one-handed snatches, you know, a ton of landmine work. So check this out. Like, for instance, you've worked with the landmine?
A little bit, yeah.
So basically, just for people who might be watching, you take your barbell and you stick the end of it like maybe into a pivoting socket, and you use the barbell now as a lever. So for instance, only one side goes up, the other side stays down. So in order to make this an effective workout, what we've done in the past is we've stacked up a bunch of plates on one side of the barbell. You press it, it's heavy. Okay. The On It Academy system, we like to work in high tension fields. So the idea was, instead of using hundreds of pounds of weight by load, instead, let me grab this barbell and use as much force as I can to stab it into the hole or the landmine as like I go through these different ranges of motion. In essence, I got to make this 45-pound bar feel like it had 200 pounds on it, which is an awesome way to train, you know, for you to be able to generate the force from within rather than it being put on you from outside. So I absolutely love the landmine portion of it. Being able to transition around the barbell is not something I ever thought would be possible, but with a little bit of the creative process and you know, the education from the On It Academy system, it's been a tremendous amount of fun. What else do? We swing I personally will swing the barbell like a steel mace. I'll do the 360s. There's a bunch of fun combos. I mean, it's a fun tool. It's like a pretty tough opponent to move around in general. I mean, just the length of it, you know, is tough.
Yeah, it's really cool. There's it really seems like there's just this new era of like strength and conditioning stuff where we're not really worried so much about. Of course, it's always fun to just like put the heaviest weight over your head as possible.
Yes.
I like that. Just
it is fun,
and that's cool. But like these different styles. And so like, you have your style, so people can like, oh, that maybe I can like think of that reminds me of something else, and then oh, I had this idea. I haven't seen anybody else do that,
yeah.
And that just kind of like it just seems to be like just growing and growing faster and faster. And Instagram is just an amazing source of people just that are they understand the fundamentals. So they actually know how to squat properly, but then they have like this whole thing that kind of blossoms out of that. And it's just such a cool time to be a trainer and a student. And so what do you see that's like next for your training? Do you, is there something else that you're like?
Yes. So originally when I got started in the Steel Mace game, to me, I thought the ultimate goal would be I need to certify people in Steel Mace. Well, the only people I really knew at the time who certified any groups in Steel Mace was the On It Academy. So it's been like a quest of mine to fulfill the role for the On It Academy system. And in that quest, I've made a name for myself in that I'm able to travel from like state to state and teach my workshops. And you know, they've been successful. And like any practice, you want to continue to evolve. What's the next step? Well, I still want to facilitate the goal to be able to teach a Steel Mace certification, but the certification that I would really like to teach is the skill acquisition, the Steel Mace Flow. How do I flow? How do I teach people how do I flow? Art to flow. So that's the next big project we're hoping to release late this year or early next year, the Steel Mace Flow certification.
Cool.
Yeah, that's been asked about for a good amount of time. I think I've got just about everything in play to make it happen. I've got all the education. So we've got the process kind of written out. We're just waiting to launch, I guess.
Yeah, very cool. And I think for now, I like these days that I'm more impressed by people's certifications than like if you said yes, I have a master's degree in exercise and physiology. That's cool. I don't have one, but what can you actually do? Because I've seen like over and over again these people with a master's degree in exercise aren't very good at exercising. They don't know how to coach a squat. Of course, there's tons of exceptions to that,
Yeah.
but if somebody has a strong first certification, they can squat. I don't have to know anything about them other than that to say, okay, I'm going to need some help at this workshop. You're certified by Strong First? Cool. Or if I'm teaching like something else like a flow or mace, oh, you've been training with Leo for 6 months and he says you're good to teach, good enough for me. I don't have to know anything else about your education. You said
This is
and like I'm putting together, this will be my third one that I've done like this where I'm having 6 instructors, and then I have an herbalist also who's going to take us to foraging for herbs that support the musculoskeletal system. But it's this 2-day workshop. And I have 6 instructors, like 2 ninja warriors, husband and wife. They're awesome. And a capoeira guy and a movement guy like Ido Portal style, and then me, and then a yoga teacher. And so like I know that there are these really great teachers, and so I'm like, will you come and teach at my workshop? They say yes, and then I'm like, great. Well, in about a week or so, let me know what you're going to teach. I'm not saying, will you teach handstands? Will you teach this or that? It's like, I want you to come and teach at my workshop. You have 2 classes over these 2 days.